So, good morning, and thank you to everyone for coming to one of our sessions. There's some candy involved, for our fall K through 12 showcase that we're having this year. And this morning we have Robbie Barber here. She is a teacher librarian from Tucker High School, a school inside the DeKalb County school system. So, Robbie, thank you for being here this morning. I'll let you take it away.
All right, thank you. So today what we're going to talk about in probably 20 minutes or so is how I teach students to do Boolean logic when they're doing searches. And this works for Google, but it works wonderfully well for Galileo. And we're going to talk about how to do that. So to back up, Boolean logic is three simple words: and, or, and not. And they have different uses, and we're going to talk about how to do it. I will give you a couple of hints for Google, but we're also going to look at how it actually applies inside Galileo. So the way I do it and the way to keep their attention is I use candy. So hopefully you can see this. If my background takes it away, somebody let me know and we'll turn off the background so you can see all the candy very well. This is a Tootsie Roll Pop. This is a York peppermint patty. Get the sensation. This is a Dum Dum. And this is a Jolly Rancher watermelon flavor. Okay? So I always start with a bunch of candy. Yes, I do toss candy at kids as they're doing this so that they can get the idea. And so we're going to start with something very simple. If I say the word candy, we're going to include all of these items because they are all handy, right? That's how we start. If I say the word chocolate, not everything here would be correct when we do a search. In fact, chocolate would only apply to the York peppermint patty and to the Tootsie Roll Pop, which has chocolate in it. But the Dum Dum and the watermelon rancher don't have any chocolate in them, so that they're not actually part of the search, right? So if I search chocolate, I'm going to get these two out of our full search systems. All right. When you say chocolate and lollipop, what you're going to get here is going to be the Tootsie Roll Pop alone. All right, let me explain. So, and is a way to take everything and bring it down tighter. We want a much smaller amount of things. So if I say if I have a York peppermint patty and say chocolate and lollipop, there's no lollipop associated with this, so this is no longer valid in this search. The and limited my results to the Tootsie Roll Pop. It takes the broad group, in this case just these two, and reduced it down to just this one. So and is a way of compressing. Now here's the thing you need to know. In Google, if you type in several words in your search, chocolate and lollipop, you are going to get the Tootsie Roll Pop because Google, if you type the word chocolate space lollipop, Google puts the and in between them automatically. They know that you really want a smaller search group, not a large one, so that's what they're trying to do. Interestingly enough, Galileo does exactly the same thing. They put the and between every word you type. So you don't have to type chocolate and lollipop. You type chocolate space lollipop, and they put the and in there for you. They're trying to bring it down to something you can deal with. That's the Boolean logic for and. Let's go back to our set. All right. So if I say, whew, here we go. We got 4. Hopefully you can see all 4 again. If I say or means everything of one thing and everything of the others. So if I say chocolate or lollipop, okay, the watermelon Jolly Rancher doesn't fit either of those. It's neither a chocolate or a lollipop, so I'm going to drop it out. The York Peppermint Patty is in fact chocolate, so it's included. The Tootsie Roll Pop is a lollipop or it's chocolate, it's included. And the Dum Dum is a lollipop, so it's included. So when I do an or, I'm taking this group and expanding it out. All right. Most people don't want to expand out. They're trying to narrow down, but there are exceptions to every rule. And there are times when you want to use an or. So I use or for certain things like I had a student doing a paper involving young childhood education. Okay. Well, we couldn't find anything when we used young childhood education. So we said young or young children, and suddenly we had more results. We had to expand from a very small pool to try to get it bigger, but stay within our meanings. Now, here's another hint. Ibisco, for a search in Galileo, does a really excellent job of adding the ors for you, or it will offer you the option. So if I say one of my search terms is the United States, it will automatically give me a choice to say USA or United States or United States of America, because they know that not all the people writing key terms for their articles will put in every option. So they're trying to give you that little expansion right there. So again, or is pretty simple. We're just going to take these things. If I say chocolate or lollipop, the only thing I lost was the watermelon, and I have everything else here. So we have and, we're bringing it down. We have or, we're bringing it up. The coolest one of all, the coolest one is not. Okay. Here's how not works. Not is what we call a secondary search. So you do a search on chocolate, right? And you get all these responses that are chocolate anything that has the word chocolate somewhere in it. And you go down that list and you go, ugh, I don't like mint. Ugh. So you go back up to your search and you put not mint and hit enter again, and it removes all of the mint options and just gives you the other options that don't have mint. So back to our examples. If I say chocolate, not mint, well, this isn't chocolate. This is chocolate. Our York Peppermint Patty. Sorry, I had to turn the wrong way. Our York Peppermint Patty is chocolate and mint, and I said not mint. Goes away. This is not chocolate. Goes away. So I have chocolate that is not mint. And that's all I have left from that particular search. Again, if I said chocolate, these two would be in there. But I go, ugh, I don't like mint. So I go up to the bar and I say, not mint. Take it out. Boom. I love the not as a secondary search because so often when you're doing a search, you're going to look at your results and it's got all these things you didn't want in there. And all you have to do is take that part out of your search and boom, you have a much cleaner, better search for you to deal with. It's an easy way for you to just narrow things down. Now, here's the hint. If you're using Google, you go back up to the search bar, put a space, put the minus sign, without a space, put mint. Minus, so if you have chocolate space, minus mint, that's the same thing as doing the not in Google. Cool, huh? Before I move on, and yes, if you were here, you'd be getting tossed candy. But before I move on to show you how Galileo works with all the ands, ors, or not, are there any particular questions? Anybody have anything that either unmute or just put into the chat?
I've given everyone the ability just now to unmute themselves. We've got a, tight group here. If you all wanted to just open up and ask away, or offer up how you might do some of these things at your own school, your own kids, go right ahead. Or you can put things in the chat.
Right. So take just a second.
Kristen
and then
said, I love the analogy of candy, so easy for kids to understand. Yeah.
I totally agree, Kristen. It's also so easy for adults to understand. I never assume that my teachers really know how to do all these too. And since they stay with me when I'm doing these classes, hopefully they are also learning.
Leora says, I have no mic, but thanks for the simple example.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead now. I've got a little screenshots to show you of how it works inside Galileo. So hopefully yay. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Joy will let me know if you can't. And let's get started here. So when you go into Galileo, you have the bento and the classic search. Now, for those who aren't fully familiar, the bento is kind of the cool little bento box where it separates out everything into groups. One of the first things I tell any student or adult for the most part is to always check full text only. There's no reason not to do that. You don't need to go on anything. And frankly, even if you're an undergrad in college, you probably always want to go full text only. So we're going to start with that. And I put in a search chocolate mint candy. Now remember here, the and is assumed. It says chocolate and mint and candy. You're just not seeing the ands. And we're going to bento box. So what you get, and again, full text only, what you get are all these different areas, and complete with a, did you mean chocolate milk candy? No, I did not. I don't like chocolate milk. I don't like that sort of thing. So milk chocolate isn't good either. Here we go. So I've got all these various areas. And we're going to go to the next slide. And we're going to see how the bento box. So there's nothing in the encyclopedia. In the news, I have Mint Delight is based on grasshopper pie chocolate bits, but you can see I've brought chocolate and mint into this thing. You have chocolate and cocoa recipes. If you were to go into this, you would see it mentions mint in particular. One of my favorites in this is the e-cigarette flavors. And if you go in, apparently there is a chocolate mint e-cigarette flavor. I'm not sure I understand why we are doing that, but I am telling you. Okay. So now I'm going into the classic search, right? And I am showing you that I've gone ahead and applied filters in advance. One is the full text only, and the second is that I am saying magazines and academic journals only, because otherwise you get a bunch of ebooks at the top, and I don't want to. I want to be able to show more variety in the results. So I have applied those before we got here. I put chocolate mint candy, which is again chocolate and mint and candy. And you can see that I have just slightly less than 6,000 results. You'll notice there's one steeped in green tea. And if you go down, you look in the subjects, it has chocolate and mint and candy in the subject title. So you can see why that was grabbed. Great. So now I'm going to go in and say chocolate and mint and candy in an advanced search, right? And I got slightly different number because it's never a perfect thing, but before I had 5,800, now I have 6,000. It's really very similar and the same thing, right? Because the and while this time it's very specific, before it was hidden. I consider these results very close together. So now let's try using an or. We're going to say chocolate or mint, but and candy, because I want to stick to my candy. Okay. All right. Suddenly, because I've taken everything chocolate that's candy and everything mint that's candy, I've got everything. I have 440,000 results. It's huge. It's a big difference because I'm expanding. The or makes it a much bigger grouping. The and brings it down tight. So now we'll go back to my example of getting rid of the mint, and I'll say chocolate, not mint, and candy. Again, I want it to be chocolate and candy, but not mint. And you'll notice the results now are down to 55,000 from the 440,000, right? So one last thing I did want to tell you, in case you are not aware when you're doing searches, and this is really important, is that the order matters too. Which word is first, which word is second, and which word is third. So I would have had very different results if I had done candy, then chocolate, then mint. Not very different, but it would have been very different because it puts the weight on the order of the words. I'm going to switch back here, stop sharing. Believe it or not, this very short thing is really all I do with kids. I go through this with the candy, where they get tossed candy. Then we go through it online, actually in Galileo. And that's it. That's all it takes to teach them some really simple and specific things about doing searches. So that's my presentation in 18 minutes. If you've got questions, comments, jump on in there.
Leora is writing a comment. I think Renee too. How do you help them not to be overwhelmed by the number of results?
That's an excellent question, Lenore. So one of the things is to, well, I try to make them use more ands, because the more words you add, the tighter your search is going to be. Galileo has quite a lot of filters, and I always encourage kids. We're not going to talk, Joy, about how I felt about my filters getting hidden, because I teach them filters all the time. So I may do what I did here in the example, which is I filter by the type. So it may just be magazine or news articles or academic journals, and I take out any ebooks or these other kinds of publications to help narrow, then tighten that thing down. Galileo has some amazingly good filters. Actually, I'm going to grab the screen again because I can. Thank you so much. We're going to get out of this.
Are they
And
having
Galileo.
this in the advanced search? Are you teaching mostly advanced searching, or like right here, put all your ands and ors and buts?
Oh, no, I mostly, well, I teach a lot of the advanced search, but we always start with the basic search. All right. But once you're in here, you can advanced search to separate out words and do the and or nots right here. And of course, click on online. Okay, but the other thing that I will do once you have results is you can go to this all filters, and now you have this amazing set of filters here. I can set the date range. Maybe I don't, the default is all time, but maybe I only want stuff in the past 12 months. Source types. So I can say all I want are academic journals, and I don't want any reports. I certainly don't want any book reviews. I don't want any ebooks. You know, I could actually limit by journal. I think I mentioned to Kristen, you can actually pick Educational Leadership magazine to be your search thing yesterday. So hold on a second. That's in my way. Here we go. So now I'm only looking at academic journals. I only have 20 or just shy of 3,000 options that are chocolate and mint. And you can see it's because you're using these incredible filters and they're just so dang handy to do everything. So I do a lot of teaching with the filters. Go back over here. Okay.
Kristen had mentioned that is a huge time saver. I'm assuming she was mentioning about the filters on the side.
The filters are great.
Renee said that overall this has been a great analogy and very useful. I know that when I'm searching for things, my um, likelihood is to just use the first things that come up, and that's going to be what I put in my research instead of looking through this page and that page to find something that is maybe more useful. So is it a myth that the first thing that comes up is the most useful for what you're searching?
That's a myth.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you that up front. That's usually a myth. It depends a lot. Remember, your word order matters. So if you flipped your first and second word, you're going to get a different top search, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in Google, you're definitely, that does not have anything to do with the accuracy, most current. It doesn't plop those up at the top. It's usually the one most in use. And I don't know Galileo's search parameters, but I would presume the top ones are not necessarily the best ones. They just come closest to fitting the order of the words.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a lot of times you just add more words. One of the things I try very hard to break kids of, and it's something you just have to work with them, is not to type out a question, but to type the keywords. And we work on what is a keyword and that sort of thing, because if I can get them down to not typing in what is the difference between chocolate and chocolate mint and candies that don't have mint, or whatever, that becomes really long, that won't get them the answers they're looking for. It's complicated because it's picking up different words.
Mm-hmm.
And they almost all type questions. We type them. Have you ever watched adults type into a Google search? They'll type a question. And so teaching them to pull out those key words and then say, what's the most important word here? And put that first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's just a huge thing. That's a work of time over time. But again, you just have to understand these are key things that make a difference with understanding these sorts of things. The word order matters. Where, again, remember, it's assuming the ands. And if you want an or, you have to do something different. And if you want a not, you have to do something different. So, Leora, the other thing I do is let them search and then go back in, because their first couple of things are like, well, I don't care about this. You go back in and say, let's advanced search it and add a not for this item and search again. And did that reduce those out of the way? Is it a better, easier thing? I really love the not. That's just a fantastic way to bring your searches together. Okay, yes.
Okay. Well, if anyone has any remaining questions, I'm just thinking of things off the top of my head, what makes my searching cumbersome when I'm looking for things. But if no one has any additional questions or tidbits they want to share, thank you all for being active in the chat. I see Sheila Bell typing something. But thank you all for being active in the chat and participating in this morning's session. The recording, Sheila, will first be at the bottom of this chat, so I think you can just log back in and you can just see it. Or alternatively, later this week, all the recordings will be on our YouTube channel, so it'll be easily accessible. You'll all get emails from me, all the registrants. So thank you all for attending, and thank you, Robbie, for getting us ready for fall festivals with some candy.
Yeah, you got it. It is the season, and I'm just telling you, I have several of these if y'all show up in person.
All right. Well, thank you for presenting, and thank you all for attending. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.